Hi, Dr. Vince Belanzi here, and I just got finished doing a radio show. I wanted to do a video too. I've got a real interest in what's being called food deserts, and I did a Blog Talk Radio on that. If you want to go to blogtalkradio.com, I'm the Health Abandoned channel, and you can listen to the archives and also the show I just did on food deserts. Food deserts are areas, even in our country, that we're concerned about because it's about the availability of good food. And for many reasons, these deserts, as they're called, have been created. Now, in Britain, they actually did quite a few studies, and they've tried to make some changes there, and even other places in Europe. Because what happened there and actually here is that primarily in the cities, you had people moving out to the suburbs, which is part of our history. But as people fled, or let's not say fled, but as they left the city, also the services and things that were in the city moved out to the suburbs too, and including supermarkets. So in some city areas, some especially big cities, what's happened is there's not the availability of food and services that there were before. So people are left with fewer choices unless they travel out of town. And that's one of the causes of the food deserts. The other cause, though, I really see is in a sense our own choices. Things have changed, and people no longer have this idea or knowledge of what food is. I run across so many people in the clinic where they've got this idea that what the media tells them is really the truth. And not that media lies, but people are advertising products that are not necessarily wholesome food, right? A lot of the products out there for convenience have been processed to a point where they can sit on a shelf. They're just no longer food anymore. And what's happened is the access to fresh food has almost vanished for these people, again, unless they get in a car or get on a bus and go several miles where they can perhaps purchase real food. So part of the answer is to get people to know what real food is and start, in a sense, asking for it. You ask with your pocketbook. If you go to the market and what you want isn't there, or if the small convenience stores that are around aren't stocking what you need, you can start asking for it and not buying a lot of the junk and convenience foods. You can start facilitating community gardens and farmers markets. In certain areas, I live in Austin, Texas. I'm kind of spoiled because we do have a lot of farmers markets and we've got stores that are very invested in healthy foods because the population demands it. We have a fairly health conscious population in the city of Austin, so it makes a little difference in what's available. But I think we can turn around almost any area with that same kind of thinking. If we get people wanting the food, then there are ways to develop access to it. We have the transportation ability. It's a matter of having the facilities, the supermarkets, the restaurants, the cafeterias, all the places where food is distributed. We need to start facilitating the distribution of real food. It's not that I want to put junk food places out of business, but we probably should not frequent those types of places as much and go to places that are serving actually healthy meals. You know, they've done studies on the body's immune system, and inflammation is the base of a lot of disease. And several studies have indicated that when people consume the junk foods, they get a huge immune response that they don't get when they eat real food. And it's quite a contrasted difference. So in a sense, you're creating disease and a problem from eating these processed foods when you can avoid the problem by eating real foods. And it can make a real difference in chronic disease. So what we want to do is talk to people who are putting together farmers markets. If there's not one around, see if you can be part of putting one together. You know, contact however far away people have to come, people that are farming. Most of us live fairly near someone who's got at least some fresh things. And then there are community gardens as well. So there are ways to put that together. But also go talk to the supermarket where you shop and perhaps see what can be done if there's not one close enough to facilitate the market coming in. Government may be able to step in, and that's one way they can help. I don't believe in governments passing laws to rule on what people can eat, but the government can step in and help, say, a larger market to move in and facilitate it carrying healthy foods. There are ways to do that. Subsidies could be shifted to something like that. Instead of paying the big industrial farms all the subsidy money, perhaps we should be working with small farmers and maybe facilitating farmers markets and supermarkets and people's access to food. And maybe we should find a way to get healthier providers, restaurants, cafeterias. If you have to eat in a cafeteria, or your kids have to eat at a school cafeteria, get involved with what's being put out in the cafeteria. I know it's a hard transition. In the news, there were a couple schools that I read about that were reported on that had really tried to shift their cafeteria servings to healthier meals. And then the kids were complaining that they were hungry. And what they came to find out is it wasn't that the kids were hungry because the meals weren't filling. It's because they wouldn't eat healthy foods instead of what they had been eating before. And what happened is they weren't eating and they were hungry because of that. The cafeteria would prepare a healthy food and then it would end up in the trash, basically. So we've got to do some education. We've got, as parents, we have to talk to children and get them to make those healthier choices. Hopefully that's done at home. It needs to be done at school as well. But it's an education and a shifting of consciousness in a sense, because what we're doing isn't working. Chronic disease has taken off, and heart disease is still the #1 killer in this country for several years in a row, and it's preventable, and in many ways by diet and somewhat by exercise. Name a disease, and we can have an impact on it, if not completely prevent it, by changing people's eating habits and their physical activity habits. A better designed lifestyle prevents disease. Wouldn't you rather prevent something rather than going through the experience of having it? Unfortunately, our system is based on waiting until you have a disease and then you get to go see the doctor. We got to change that way of thinking too. So this is Dr. Vince Belanzi. I hope this is helpful. We'll be doing more videos, of course, but I just wanted to do a quick one. If you want to go hear more about this, go to blogtalkradio.com and check out my archives at Health Abandon Radio. But if not, look for my next video. Live healthy, live happy.